Hello everybody and welcome. I am Bricker Boom, and I figure with Mother's Day being right around the corner, it would be a good idea to go ahead and cover three incredible killers. The Huntress being the first one, also known by the internet as Hummy Mummy, the Artist, which is also known as Crow Mommy, and then the Plague, also known as Vommy Mommy. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead, as always, we're going to dive into their backstories a little bit and assign them a team of 6 Pokemon, doing our best to avoid any repeats from prior videos, but again, we're getting a little close to running into that. We're also going to be trying to avoid mythicals and legendaries, so without any further ado, let's go ahead, hop into it first with the Huntress. Here is her backstory.
All right, you guys ready to grab your tissue boxes and settle in for this one?
No,
Wait,
but go ahead.
because we're sad or the alternative thigh crush? Anyway.
Yes.
Oh.
Why not both?
Oh my god, hold on, I got something up my nose.
That's gonna stay in here.
All you did was breathe.
Fingers up my nose.
What?
What?
I'm magical, shut up. As soon as Anna was able to walk, her mother started teaching her how to survive a harsh, solitary life in the northern woods called the Red Forest. They lived together in a very remote cabin, just the two of them. One hunting trip, Anna and her mother were stalking a great elk through the woods. They were on the brink of starvation and desperately needed the kill. Without warning, the elk reared, bellowed, and charged at Anna. She was paralyzed with fear as the whole world seemed to shake under the immense beast's pounding hooves. The elk was close enough for Anna to see the murderous fury in its eyes when her mother threw herself in its path, axe in hand. A blood-curdling scream escaped from her lips as the elk impaled her upon its antlers and hoisted her into the air. With all her strength, she brought her axe down on its head again and again while it tried to shake her loose. With a sickening crack, the antlers snapped and Anna's mother was free. The beast collapsed. Anna was too small to move her mother's broken body, so she sat with her in the clearing where she'd fallen. To distract her from the dying elk's cries, Anna's mother held her and hummed her favorite lullaby. They stayed like that, the old huntress and the elk getting quieter and colder until Anna was alone in the silent forest. Eventually, she stood up and started the long walk back home. Still a child, she knew just enough about life in the frozen forest to survive. She followed her instincts and became one with the wild. As she grew into a dangerous predator, her humanity became a half-remembered dream. God, this might get a little long, but that's okay.
That's fine.
She grew tired of hunting small game and hunted more dangerous animals like wolves and bears. When unsuspecting travelers came through her woods, she discovered her new favorite prey, humans. Unlucky souls who strayed into her territory were slaughtered like any other animal, but she could never bring herself to kill the little girls. Girls she would take home back to her house deep in the woods. They were precious, and looking at them woke something deep in her heart. She craved the closeness of a loved one, a child of her own. Among the pillaged wooden toys, dolls, and storybooks she couldn't read, the girls would be tied by the neck with the rough and chafing rope fastened firmly to the wall. Every time the girls would waste away and die of cold or starvation or sickness. Every time it plunged Anna deeper into pain and sorrow and madness. She was compelled to try again and started raiding the nearest villages to slaughter families and kidnap their daughters. She wore one of the animal masks her mother crafted for her so many years earlier to try and calm the frightened children. Villagers spread the legend of a half beast lurking in the Red Forest, the Huntress who killed men and ate little girls. My kind of woman. The Huntress is a ranged killer able to throw hunting hatchets at survivors to injure them from a distance. Her perks allow her to apply pressure through better map awareness and enhancing chasing abilities. They revolve around the hunt of the prey to track and find so that she can get close enough to make the kill.
So, with that being said, I feel like the best team for the Huntress is going to be Nidoqueen, because it's stated that she will protect the young in the burrow with her life. Lopunny, because it lives in the forests and is constantly monitoring the area, just like the Huntress does. Haxorus, due to the fact that its face just looks like a hatchet, which she throws. Marowak, due to the backstory of the Cubone wearing its mother's skull, the Marowak dying to protect its young in Pokemon Yellow, Jigglypuff, yes, I finally got Jigglypuff in there, due to the constant humming that is also sounds somewhat like singing depending on the skin that the Huntress has, and then Sceptile, because without Peer in the jungle, it will combat anybody to prove that it is on top. So with that being said, the Huntress's full team is going to be Nidoqueen, Lopunny, Haxorus, Marowak, Jigglypuff, and Sceptile, and depending on how the Huntress feels, it's probably going to be going ahead and hunting down any Sawsbuck that it sees. Sorry, Sawsbuck. Oh! I have a Pokemon that will work for Hummy Mummy.
Yeah, who's that?
Jigglypuff.
That didn't pick up, but I punched my desk because I had the same moment of like, oh,
I
hey,
heard it.
Jigglypuff would work. I'm not saying it, but it'll work. Fuck you.
So, the next up that we are going to have is going to be the artist who, I mean, the backstories that we're going over today seem to be a little bit sadder than others, so here's a moment to see a dancing cat. Now that that's over, let's go ahead and dive into the backstory.
Stricken with guilt over the death of her young brother, Carmina Mora sought to end her misery by taking her own life. The crows had other plans, though. They enveloped her, comfort swimming in their beady little eyes. So cute. She drew inspiration from their otherworldly presence, using black ink to depict the murder of crows that saved her. Her artwork soon became prolific. Some called her the pioneer of large-scale surrealism in South America. Others believed her presence to be a threat, one that must be put down with swift brutality. The latest piece she painted sparked a radical debate about corruption. The controversy painted a target on Carmina's back. After receiving anonymous death threats, she took refuge in her father's house, bringing along her closest friends for safety. That night, a gang of masked gunmen broke into the house. They swiftly subdued Carmina and her friends, threw them in a van, and drove off. Morning, a dry breeze blew sand on Carmina's face, awakening her. She was seated in a chair in the middle of the desert, with her legs tied and her hands handcuffed. Her friends were lying on the ground, tied up. A shadow fell over her face. Carmina looked up. A man dressed in a long robe with his face hidden in a dark hood approached her. He pulled out a silvery knife from his robe. He grabbed her hands and recited a hymn in an unfamiliar language. Carmina held his gaze. He paused and brought down his blade with a sudden blow. She cried in agony as her friends woke to a terrible sight, Carmina's severed hands falling into the sand. The hooded man smiled in satisfaction. How are you going to paint now? Carmina cursed and screamed at him, wriggling against the bonds on her legs. The man grabbed Carmina's chin. She spit in his face. Ugh, again, what a woman. He grunted and pried her mouth open, pulling out her tongue. Carmina struggled in his hold. In a violent blow, he chopped off Carmina's tongue. She howled in anguish. The man wiped his blade on his robe, leaving a trail of blood. Sorrow swelled in Carmina's chest, sharper than pain. Overwhelmed by uncontrollable rage, grief, and loss overcame her senses. She had lost her little brother, and she had lost the only way to cope with such pain. Carmina screamed like on the day her brother died. Raucous caws echoed through the wasteland. The sky was obscured by a cyclone of dark clouds. Black feathers fell on Carmina's bleeding arms. She looked up and saw a torrent of crows erupting from the clouds, diving on the hooded man. As the ravenous crows picked at his flesh mercilessly, Carmina smiled, watching her surrealist art coming to life. But her heart lurched with rage when she saw the crows move on to their next target, her friends on the ground. She screamed as waves of pain, guilt, and fright overwhelmed her. But it was in vain. The ravenous crows were uncontrollable. Darkness fell over her eyes as her friends' agonizing screams grew more acute. Death was coming, and again it was her fault. A deep black fog engulfed her. The artist is a ranged reconnaissance? Reconnaissance?
Reconnaissance.
Yep, close enough. Kill it. Able to launch birds of torment across the map to reveal and attack survivors. Her perks allow her to interrupt survivors' objectives, torment hooked survivors, and use destroyed totems to her advantage. And she's really cute. And she makes cute cawing noises.
And when
gosh.
she
She's
vaults
a bird.
windows, she does little hippie hops.
So cute.
Well,
And
she's a bird now.
as always, just for the YouTube side of things, if you are wanting the full story, make sure to look it up on the DBD wiki. But it was
Yes.
forever long. So
It's another forever long one.
yeah, like
Yeah.
we could only do so much.
Yeah.
And also for YouTube purposes, it's a very heavy topic.
Yes.
And with that, the artist team, I think, is going to be best with Smeargle, due to the fact that the artist was a painter. Smeargle is only known for painting. Murkrow, due to the fact that it is a crow Pokemon. This is where we're kind of getting into pre-evolved forms fitting the aesthetic or the character better. Due to her controlling crows. Corviknight, once again, just mostly due to the crow aesthetic side of things. Scyther, due to its scythe-like hands. Octillery, due to the fact that it fires ink, and the crows that she sends after you are also made of ink, if I remember correctly. Alcremie, I hope I pronounced it right, due to the Gigantamax form launching missiles of cream, much like the birds being summoned and firing at you. That one could be considered a stretch, however, it was hilarious when I thought about it, so we're definitely going to be keeping that in the video.
Bark, 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 bark.
I did. You shut up.
You keep hearing Jabberwocky noises in the background. I'm like, what?
Oh
Oh my god.
It's like that TikTok trend of the, hey, hey, what?
What? I was trying to make her look pretty, okay? Don't jinx it. You're gonna owe me a soda. Because I'm 12, apparently. Okay,
This
here we
Mother's
go.
Day special is
Mother's
going
Day.
great.
Shout out to all the mommies out there.
Now, I never thought that I would end up saying this, but out of all of them, the Plague is the last one that we have, and honestly has one of the less depressing storylines, so let's go ahead and take a look at her backstory.
Adiris was the high priestess of Babylon, residing in the Temple of Purgation since she was left on its steps as an infant. A catastrophic plague had resurfaced and decimated the population of Babylon. The great temple was packed with followers who bowed down as Adiris entered. She strode to the brick altar and grabbed a ceremonial dagger forged in silver, her ruby-ringed fingers wrapped around the blade like claws. Her followers were struck by her youth and beauty. As she began reciting the epic of creation, a woman in the back swooned and collapsed. Adiris rushed to her and noticed the black blisters covering her feet. Without hesitation, Adiris grabbed her sacred blade and swung it at her own foot, severing a toe. Then she offered the bloody part to the gods, asking them to protect the woman. A silence fell over the followers. Tales of her wealth, beauty, and devotion began to spread across the city as quickly as the disease. However, no sacred song, blessed fruit, nor atoning sacrifice could shield her from the plague. Her faith was tried when she showed the first signs of infection. Her cough became a mix of phlegm and blood. Her neck erupted in abscesses, and her four-toed foot darkened. Ashamed of her condition, she began wearing a veiled headpiece and carried a censer that masked the rancid smell of sick that clung to her skin. So gross. Hoping to be saved, she kept performing the rituals, offering blessed water and food to her followers. But no ritual could save her. In a desperate attempt to appease the gods, Adiris banished herself from the city. She traveled north with a few followers until it was no longer possible to walk. They camped in a damp cave where Adiris lay in a pool of vomit. Her foot, which had turned black, was so swollen that she could not go any further. Her followers and she realized the truth in that cave. Her and her followers realized the truth in that cave. They were all infected with the plague. Kneeling among her retching followers, Adiris made one last prayer. The black fumes of incense rose into the damp air before being wiped off by a cold breeze. Neither the body of Adiris nor those of her followers were ever found. Many told tales of her return, but no one truly knew what fate had befallen the high priestess of Babylon. The plague is a devout killer, able to infect survivors from a short distance using her power, Vile Purge. Survivors infected by this contamination risk becoming injured or broken, unless they find a way to cure themselves in a pool of devotion. Her perks give her the ability to hinder survivors' objectives while simultaneously confusing and frightening those within her presence. Now, how the fuck can I read that and fuck up on so many easy words? Oh my god.
So, with the plague, we decided to go ahead and give her a team of Swallow due to spitting out poison spray. It seems to make sense because when she first became infected, she was coughing out both phlegm and blood, and also when she spits out the vomit at you, you are also immediately infected. Venusaur, because the flower's aromas soothes the emotion of people, which is what she did in her life when she was trying to essentially make sure that they weren't worried about her being sick. Comfey, due to being a healer Pokemon and having aromatic flowers, much like she was considered a healer. Aromatisse, due to the infected status effect that it has. Roserade, because it also spews poison. And finally, Milotic, due to it being very beautiful when alive and having a high social status, much like she did. So with that being said, the Plague's full team is going to be Swalot, Venusaur, Comfey, Aromatisse, Roserade, and Milotic. So with that, I hope that you enjoyed this installment of Pokemon by Daylight. We're going to keep going forward, moving through the killers, and eventually get to the survivors, but as always, if there is a certain video game, anime, what have you, that you would like to see us go ahead and cover, make sure to go ahead and drop that in the comments below. And, as always, if you like the video, even if you didn't like the video, hit the like and subscribe button, because it really does help me out. And until next time, everybody, peace out.
If I get a good time with any one of these mommies, that's fine.
I will stay away from Plague.
Probably
You can
gonna
have
keep
her.
that in the video.